Well, it's like what she said, just a couple inches. Hello again. Hey, I want to show you some cool stuff I'm working on. Well, some stuff I had to fix from race week last year. Let me show you the first piece. So on the front control arm, we modified the front end a little bit and ended up bending the control arm. And this is a repair that was done at race week with the on-site welder. And it worked really well, but you can see it's still bent. So I got some new control arms and I'm going to be fixing that. You can see there's been some changes to this over the years, but let me kind of show you what's going on with the front end, what I've changed, and the small changes I'm going to make now. So I have the driver's side apart already. You can see it's already torn apart. This is a Mustang II type front end. It's actually was a rod and custom front end. We've done some changes to. Let me show you the other side that has not been taken apart yet. So what we've got is a coil over here. Obviously, got a shock sensor here. This is this is for a Ford Expedition. So it's about a $35 part. I kind of like using OEM parts like that, A, because they're cheap, and B, because they've been designed to be out in the elements by the OEM. It's a simple 5-volt sensor just like all the other shock sensors, but it's up and out of the way, and you can see that I've mounted that with just a simple rod end with a rod here to the control arm. Works awesome. Gives me all the data I need. So what I did here is, this used to have a really short coilover on it that was angled out to this bolt hole. So it sat at an angle like this. And although it worked, you know, the Mustang II setup is really notorious for not having a lot of front end travel, which is not great for drag racing when you need some weight transfer. So my faithful co-pilot Jamie and I redesigned this with an upper mount. Let me find the other one here. Where'd it go? Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so we made an upper mount that was much longer, that went up like this. And we ended up moving the shock from this angled position to more of an upright, like you can see here. And that gave it about 65% more travel. And realistically, that was, well, it's like what she said, just a couple inches. But what you can see, and it significantly worked better. But what you can see is in the full droop mode like this, the pinch point now is between the coilover and the mount here. There's a tiny little bit of space right here. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put an extended ball joint. It's 1 inch longer, which will move this arm up 1 inch, which will give us more clearance here. And then down here, I'm actually going to move, since I have to build the new A-arm, I'm going to move this to the top, and I'm going to move it in about 1 inch, which will move it out a little bit, but it should also give me just a little bit more extension. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Now here's the new A-arm here, and I'm going to, instead of it being mounted like this on the bottom, I'm going to move it to the top. So if you can see if I put this up so you can see it, it's in the same position. You can see those are mounted on the bottom. Now I'm going to move it to the top, and I'm going to move it an inch that way. So I'm going to weld that on there, and because that bent, I'm gonna make a plate to go on the bottom to help reinforce that. I mean, if you look at a factory A-arm, they're typically boxed out. So yeah, it should make it a lot better and work better. Oh God, I got mess on my face already from working. It's good. Yeah, so stay tuned. I'll show some footage of making these mods. So I'm gonna take this on this guy, sand a flat spot on the back so it doesn't roll when I'm placing it on here. Here we go, little flat spot. Marked it off. All right, so now I'm gonna install, I'll show you the mock-up here, but I also wanna show you I'm gonna install these extended ball joints. So this is an inch longer. So if you look here, well, like this one here, see the difference? See how much longer that is? That's standard, that's an inch longer. So let's come over here. I got this mocked up with the A-arm on the bottom. So A-arm is here. I've modified it. I have the extended ball joint in here. And what that did is it lifted the A-arm up. So if we come and look at this side at full droop, you can see how the limiting down is the angle of that ball joint. Like it can't move anymore. So that's the limit of down. When we extend it 1 inch, it moves the whole arm up and gives us more down travel. So can you see that? Who's calling? Okay, so I don't know if you can see on here how much more droop we have over here. I'm gonna measure it and tell you, but if you look at the way this moves, I have the spring out so it can move. We can see it. But even at full up, you have to look out though, because when you put the longer one in here, at full compression, it may bottom out the angle that way. But in this case, I think I'm okay because I put a bump stop here, that white thing in the shock. So when we get close to top, see it's hitting the bump stop, so it gives it more resistance, and the spring will be in there too. But even at full up, you can see the angle. Like, that would be the max up, but that's huge. Like that would bury the tire. Like it's never seen that much compression before. So like you would have to, I don't know, do a Dukes of Hazzard jump or something to see that, but that would be bad. So we're in good shape here. And so if I let it down, you can see that thing work. And there's full droop, and it'll actually go, it'll go a little more when the spring is on there. But what's gonna end up happening is the spring will pinch right here before this bottoms out. So we're safe. So we're safe. So I ended up moving this an inch up and from the other side. So if we come over here and look, so let me situate these the right way. So there's the difference. That's the old one that's bent, and you can see the shock was mounted to the bottom of it. And on the new one, I have moved, let's see if we line these up if you can see. So I moved the shock support this way 1 inch, which would rotate the whole strut a little bit more to reduce some of the pinch on the spring. So yeah, I'm pleased with how this is looking. And then I'm going to use some of this steel and I'm going to reinforce the bottom, the bottom of the A-arm. I'll end up cutting it and welding it on there to make it stronger, because this is a street car and there's potholes and it gets driven a lot. So in a race situation, you probably don't have to do that because you're at the track and that's it, and it goes onto a trailer. This thing gets driven and it pulls that trailer right there. So you got to make it work. All right, I got everything mocked up that we saw over there. Now I'm going to weld this thing up. So I'm going to put the bolt in here just to keep the two sides centered. I'm going to weld that up, and then I'm going to make the plate that goes on the bottom. Okay, here's the plan. I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it with the plasma cutter like this and cut a hole out in the middle to make the plate to go here for the bottom to reinforce it so it doesn't bend like this one did. So let me get on that with the plasma. All right, one down, all welded up. Got a couple little ones in there. Number 2 to go. Gonna weld that one up, and then we'll get to installing it. All right, I got them both welded up here. Ow, that's the hot one. Woo, it's still hot. Anyway, both welded up. Gonna hit them with some Pour 15 or chassis black. Get them all painted up and weatherized. All right, I got them all painted. They're drying. Let's take a look. Drying and dripping. How about that? Yeah, they look pretty good. They're gonna look good when I get them back on the car. All right, tomorrow they should be dry. I keep it about 55 in here, so they should be good tomorrow. Okay, I got this side all done. Let's take a quick look. So I'll show you the difference from one side to the other, but that A-arm turned out super nice. That's the reinforcement plate right there on the bottom. Extended ball joint, you can see here, a little longer, 1 inch. And then I ended up moving this out just a little bit so we have less pinch there. I will, let's do this so you can see it move. So when it picked up another 9/16 of droop by doing that. Obviously don't want to lift it up off the lift, but that's going to be about ride height right there. And you can see I have a bump stop in here just in case it bottoms out, which it shouldn't, but that's the way it acts. So not too bad for a Mustang II front end. I'll show you the difference over here. So you can see this had the shock mount below, and over here now it's above. So I moved that and I moved it a little bit more outboard because this was pinching pretty hard right up in here. If you can, I don't know if you can see that real good, but by moving it out, it just moved the whole shock a little bit out. So the geometry just seems to be a little better. And with the extended ball joint here, it's gonna move that arm up just a little bit so that it doesn't bind at the ball joint, which is not what you want. So there's that one. And then you can see the extended one. The angle's not quite as bad and the arm is much better. So we'll keep working. I'll get the other side back together and then we'll see what it looks like on the ground. Okay, here's the difference between the ball joints. I'm working on getting the other one swapped out. So this one is obviously 1 inch longer. That's the one that came out. Those are kind of like the stock ones, and these are the longer ones that we're putting in. Okay, another thing I want to show you are these upper control arm bushings. So here's the upper control arm that I just put the extended ball joint in. Press that in. These are the upper bushings. Now, because, let me show you over here, especially on this passenger side, I do have a heat shield, which is right there, that goes in here, but because the header is right here and with the turbo, I'm sure this glows bright red. So I was melting Delrin bushings, but these are the upper ones here, and I'll show you these. My buddy made these, but they are solid. So it's brass, and I don't know if you can see that in there, but there's a oil groove, and I actually, not oil but grease, and I actually use anti-seize. This stuff, this Loctite 767 compound is rated to 1600 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's plenty good. But it keeps these things from moving, keeps them nice and free so that they spin and the front end moves nice and free. So thought that might be interesting. All right, here's a look at it.